Hi guys, welcome back to Barbie Talks. I am your host, the Brown Barbie, your real and raw Barbie. Give me everything real and raw. Do we even need to go through this all the time, okay? It's so important to remember that your present shapes your future. If you live too much in the past, you are not shaping your future. And if you live too much in the future, you are not shaping your future either. So let's live in the present. And that is all about today's episode. We are talking about what does it mean to live in the past and what does it mean to live in the future, and how can we live more in the present? So if that interests you, keep listening. Today we are bringing back our quote. It has been a long time coming, and today's quote is going to be by Tony Robinson. He says, "Everything happens for a reason and a purpose, and it serves you." Everything happens for a reason, for a purpose, and it serves you. Y'all, I'm really wanting this episode to be very clear and concise. I don't want to give any of my personal stories or anything like this. I want to be very objective with you guys, because as I go through life and I go through day to day and I see situations and I take that moment of silence and I connect with the universe, God, whatever resonates with you, it becomes clear. And when I seen this quote, because I needed clarity, this was the first quote in a video I was watching, and I was like, wow, I'm gonna use that quote and it's perfect. Everything happens for a reason and a purpose, and it's for you. At times, it can feel as if things aren't happening in alignment with what you want, or in alignment with how you think life should be, or in alignment with what your idealistic circumstance should or want to be, right? We have to understand we are such small beings in this giant world, and we absolutely have no clue what is good for us and what is bad. Even we can shorten it down to, if you want a job experience and you don't get that certain job, it can feel as if, hey, like, this is what I wanted. Like, I have the talents, I have the skills for this. This is where I'm supposed to be. Why am I not here? When you take that moment to allow the rejection to be redirection, you can actually see a different field you're supposed to be in, or a different realm you're supposed to be in, or even just something that needs your attention in that moment. By having that job would have taken you away from it. And at times we can feel when things are falling apart that they're falling apart. But a lot of times when things are falling apart, they are actually falling into place. And to think at this level of thinking and live your life this way every single day can seem challenging due to our ego being such a heavy factor and a normalized factor in our life. Us thinking we know what's best for us, we know what's right, we know what's wrong. And it puts this barrier up in front of these amazing circumstances that can teach us so much, allow us to find new parts of ourselves, allow us to become this better person. It creates this resistance in this field of you not being able to reach that, because you are just so focused on, it has to go my way, it has to go this way. It limits you so much. And thinking at this enlightened level does nothing but help you. At the end of the day, things are not going to go how we want in life, right? So we kind of cheat the system by thinking about it in this way, because it allows those undesirable circumstances that come into our life to seem a bit more clairvoyant. It allows those times of confusion and questioning and even upsetness or anger to be more clear, to be more, this is what this is for. And it actually allows you to live in the present. It allows you to live day by day, and it allows you to actually focus on, what am I supposed to be gaining in this moment of time? What is my attention supposed to be on at this moment? Where am I supposed to be at this moment. When you live in the past and in the future, the two driving forces for those thought processes and being in that energy is actually anxiety and depression. So we will dive into anxiety first. Actually, we'll dive into depression first. I think this is something and a perspective that can help a lot of people, and this will drive us right into anxiety. A lot of people say depression isn't real and depression isn't a real thing and you could choose to be sad and all that stuff. To an extent, that's true. I think that's true when someone is living in a victim mindset where they are constantly saying, why is this happening to me? This only happens to me. Or they constantly place themselves in undesirable circumstances due to trauma, them thinking that that's all that's all they're used to. That's all that they're good for, or they're used to it, or they like it. So I think we can see kind of that level of depression being more so what people are talking about, that you're choosing to be depressed, you're choosing to be sad. Now, on the other hand, we have it as more of a mental battle and more of a emotional tie to pain, an emotional tie to sorrow, and an emotional tie to these things that happen in our past that we just can't shake. Did you hear what I said? An emotional tie to something in the past of something we cannot shake off. When you are in a depressive state, there was or is or could be a series of events that led you to get to that point, which once again, the past, prior events allowed you to now think that this is what you have to be subjected to, this is what you're used to, these are the events that have shaped your subconscious mind and allowed you to think, even if you don't want to think that anymore, because we see a lot of people that are clinically depressed, they don't want to be depressed anymore. We see a lot of people that are depressed or sad, they want to be happy, but they just can't figure out how to do it. They just can't figure out what is holding them back from that happiness. When we talk about that specific kind of depression, this is where this conversation is very pivotal and very important, and the conversation about anything inside your subconscious mind. There is not an overnight cure for that style depression. If we're talking about the other style of depression, that is going to be more based on, in my opinion, that's going to be based on more therapy, shadow work, and you kind of have to get tired of your situation at that point and want something better. But when we flip to the other side, that's something deeper. That is led by trauma, hurt, anger, resentment, and it has such a strong hold on your heart and your mental that you aren't able to bypass those past situations in order to allow you to grow and evolve and live in the present moment. With that style of depression, obviously therapy is very helpful, but breath work and EFT tapping, therapy, shadow work, journaling, getting outside and getting fresh air is going to be very, very pivotal for you to start living in the present, because it has to be a deep rewiring of understanding how you got into that depressive state. Why do you think that's the only thing that can happen in your life? And also understanding, okay, this is why I can't be happy in the present moment, and this is why I can't be present. So when you identify those traumas, that hurt, that resentment that's having that hold on you, you can slowly start to break that wall down and start to live in the present and start to live in a new life, in a new energy, and embody a new person that has always been you, but since that trauma and resentment and anger held onto it so much, it allowed that version of you to get so suppressed, you think that this past version and those past experiences are all you're able to experience and all you're able to have. I'm not going to dive too deep into why, what, how, the trauma, all this stuff. I think that's pretty self explanatory with not only the past episodes on this podcast, but also that is something for you. You really have to customize it for you. What is a trauma and something that has made me upset and made me angry, and I have this not resilience, this resentment towards, can be something completely different than yours. So we have to combat this a completely different way. So that's why talking about living in the present and understanding that depression is you living in the past and that's what's holding you back from being in the present is so important to just talk about, because then it can allow you to customize what you need to do to live in the present. And some people simply don't want to. Some people think, I'm actually not going to say that because that goes into anxiety, and that's what we're going to talk about next. But some people don't want to live in the present that are in this depressive state, I personally feel, because they don't want that hurt again. They don't want to feel that pain. They don't want to feel that anger again. They don't want to feel that sadness. So it's easier to live in this kind of cocoon and be very independent and allow these emotions to kind of suffocate you than to almost be fearful of it happening again. Or it is so traumatic and so heavy, you are so fearful that you don't want to relive it, and your fear has manifested into this big bubble of like, I don't want anyone to touch me, I don't want anyone to be near me, but I am so sad and angry that even me alone in this bubble is so heavy that I can't even be happy in it. Throughout this time, you really have to identify your triggers. You have to understand what's going on in your subconscious mind. You have to want to purge those feelings. In order to get it out, you have to feel it again. In order to have that new life, to live in the present and be resilient for the present. Let's remember, guys, there's so much strength in our testimony. There's so much power within our stories that have pain and trauma. It's what gives us grit. It's what gives us character. It's what gives us that resilience to get to those new heights, get to where we want to be. But we can't get there if we don't feel and purge that through. And living in the present sometimes isn't easy because you have to take a lot on the chin. You have to understand, you have to keep going. You have to understand that being in that depressive state and thinking in the past and thinking that this is a normal reality of undesirable circumstances does not help you and does not contribute to the life you want. And at times it's going to feel like imposter syndrome. Sometimes it's going to feel really, oh, why is nothing changing? It's going to feel very heavy at times. But this is why we purge our feelings. This is why we feel it. Because as much as we can feel the bad and negative feelings, those good feelings will feel even better. Those triumphs, those joys, those accolades will hold so much more weight. Remember, in order to see the counter of something, you got to go through the other side. So we want the joy, we want the happiness, we want the success, but what's on the other side of that? Pain, anger, losses. By going through those things, it helps you value the other side so much and help you use that other side and the feeling, the people you meet, the energy you now embody for that to become your new normal. When talking about anxiety, it's a catch-22. I can see anxiety kind of falling into two categories. One where you've kind of passed that depressive state, But that depressive state is still present enough to allow that trauma, that anger, that sadness, and that resentment to now fester into this big thing of fear that now you're so anxious to even do anything. You're so anxious to think long term. You're so anxious to trust somebody. You're so anxious to allow someone to come into your reality and become someone that can contribute to your life rather than make you this hard exterior shell and make you so angry and upset. So we can see in that level of anxiety that that's just also the depression festering such into a big ball that it festered into fear and it festered into holding you back from so much because you're so anxious of the future and what can come and oh my god, well, what if this happens? What? Now you can't even focus on what's happening now. Now, on the flip side of the other side of anxiety, it could just be the fear of failure, the fear of rejection. It could be the fear of, oh, I don't know what's happening, just the fear of uncertainty. A lot of people have a fear of uncertainty, and they have this fear of they are scared of the unknown. It makes them uncomfortable. They need to know what's happening every step of the way. They need to know what is their future that has to go this way. And in that sense of anxiety, that's controlled by control, and that is controlled by your ego. You do not have faith. Both senses you don't have faith, but this one is more predominantly you not having faith in a higher omniscient force. So I would say for this set of anxiety, and we're going to come back to the other one because that one is very important, needs to be identified a little more. With the second set of anxiety, I think it's imperative for you to connect with source. Find something that resonates with you, whether it's a religion, whether it's spirituality, whether it's just referring to it as your higher self and you are doing personal development, self-empowerment things to allow you to become your best self. Whatever you need to do, you need to connect back to self because we have to remember self is connected to source. We are made in his image and likeness. If we cannot connect to ourselves, we cannot connect to that source. We cannot connect to God. We cannot expand our mind to become this being of power, this light, and this energy that is so contagious that it helps everyone around us. When you connect to self, there's so much power in being secure in yourself, being secure in your decisions, being secure in who you are. That second set of anxiety is because you don't know who you are. You don't know your purpose in this world. You don't know what's next. You're so anxious all the time. You're not trusting yourself. You're not trusting where you're going. You're not trusting, is this the right decision? Is this not? Am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? And then what we don't realize is when you're so indecisive, you're making a choice. When you're so indecisive, honestly, guys, when you're indecisive, you're never getting the correct choice coming your way. Never. Because it's not coming at a confident decision where, yep, I'm doing this. I don't know if I should do this. So you're never going to feel like you're making the right decision. But when you become so secure in yourself, in your purpose, in your worth, and just you as a person and what you bring, the beautiful gifts you bring to this world, you really have this different energy around you that decisions seem easy. You close your eyes and you make it and you're fine. You go about your day. And if this second part resonates with you a lot where you're like, oh, I wish I could just get to that point. I would tune into self. There are so many resources. You can get online PDF books. There's audio books on YouTube. There's a million YouTube channels. There's life coaches. There's therapy. There's Facebook groups. There's Instagram groups. Get a trusted group of friends. Don't live your life in this anxiety, indecisive way. You will never feel fulfilled. How can you feel fulfilled if you can never trust that you're doing something right? And how can you ever live in the present and do the best you can each day if you always feel like you're doing something wrong? You can't. It is absolutely impossible. At that point, you're running the rat race within yourself, and everything you're doing, you're going to look 10 years from now and feel like everything was a waste you've done. You felt like you didn't live for yourself. You felt like you didn't advocate for yourself. You felt like you never even knew what you were supposed to truly do. And now you're in your 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80s, 90s. And yes, you can find your purpose at any point in life. And yes, you can go on this enlightenment journey and this personal development journey at any point in your life. But you will feel like so much time was wasted because you didn't live in the present. The first set of anxiety that we talked about that is mostly driven by depression, anger, sadness, and just so much anger is really the prison for you. It is keeping you in a prison that is fictional. These people that hurt you, these people in situations that makes you have this trauma, it is just for you to have that trauma. It is just for you to feel the way you are. But the hardest thing to realize is life goes on. And when you are stuck in that decade or stuck in that situation, yes, there's other people going through that with you and they're in that anxiety, fear-based bubble, but you're still going through it alone because it is your life. These people that hurt you, made you angry, you have this resentment towards, they're living their life. They're living their life. Life is going on for them. And they're sadly not even worrying about how that impacted you. While on the flip side, you are kind of, I don't want to say obsessing over it in a negative connotation, but you are allowing this energy to suffocate you so much in life. You can't even experience the goodness. You don't allow good people to come into your life and love you and take care of you and help you and nurture you and educate you. You don't allow good opportunities come your way because you don't think you're worthy for them. You don't think that you're deserving of them. You don't think that you could sustain them. All from past situations that were made to strengthen you, that made you who you are. There's so much power in rising from the ashes. Be the phoenix. Be the phoenix who rises from the ashes and has this new life and becomes this strong, unbreakable force that people are like, whoa, I want to be like them. It is hard to overcome that. But by you living in that, you're letting them win. You're letting the trauma win. You're letting the situations that made you feel so low and worthless win. You're allowing these people that you have so much anger and resentment towards win. All the people who said that you were never going to do X, Y, Z, they're winning. Because you are living in this state that is controlling your life so much that you cannot live in the present day and ensure every action you're doing, or at least 2 to 3 actions a day, are making you better, are allowing you to be the phoenix just rising from the ashes. That is allowing you to blossom into this being, allowing you to connect to your higher self. There's so much beauty by taking the reins of your life. There's so much beauty in regaining your autonomy. There's so much beauty in being the freaking underdog that wins. It is you. You are the underdog. You are supposed to win in this world. You are supposed to do your dream. You are supposed to fulfill this prophecy that source God has given you. He has chosen you for this prophecy. And you are sitting there allowing these traumas, this fear, or this fear of rejection and not being good enough stop you from obtaining that. I want you to stand up and regain your control. I want you to stand up and take your power back and become this unshakable force that everybody now asks how. They ask how. And you're going to get to a point where you're so powerful, you don't even realize your power anymore. Your power has now manifested into this energy that is so contagious and so big that you are just attracting the right opportunities. You are attracting the right things in your life. You are attracting the right people in your life. You are attracting every opportunity that you've ever wanted, all because you regain your power back. How amazing would that feel? The TNT question for today is, what will it take? What will it take for you to live in the present and stop living in the past? Stop living in the future? Stop allowing these negative things to fester so much where you feel like you are not worthy of X, Y, and Z, where you're not able to fulfill your prophecy, where you're able to not become your best self. What will it take? And as we wrap up here, understanding reality is so false. Anything can change at any given moment, okay? You can go down to the corner store and grab a lottery ticket and win $50,000. You can play the right numbers for the lottery, and now your whole life changed because you're a billionaire or a multimillionaire. You can get a new job. You could be at the right place at the right time and meet your next spouse, meet your forever lover, meet a great friend, meet a great business associate, meet someone who's willing to invest in your business, or even better, meet someone who is willing to invest in you. By living in the future, in the past, you take yourself away from even getting these opportunities. You take yourself away from even experiencing these beautiful synchronicities, experiencing these beautiful things in life, and experiencing more. I think it's time for whoever's listening to this to become their best self. I think it's time for you to get your game plan. What is your plan? What do you need for yourself to become at that next spot? What do you need from yourself? What do you need from others to allow you to get to that point where you can start living in the present and experience those beautiful things in life because you are deserving of it? It is literally your right to experience those things. To end us off, I'm gonna of course let you know how can you live in the present, what does living in the present look like, and all the fun stuff, okay? We're toning down the serious tone, and I'm giving you guys some tips. Neville Goddard, as you guys know, that is kind of I like to say my mentor. I'm failing him a bit right now, but he is a little bit of my mentor. I love all of his books. I love his teachings, and I love his methodology. And his methodology is living in the end. So if you were able to, in your mind, some people like to say in an idealistic world, but we live in an idealistic world, have your desired state, what would that look like? If your dreams were to come true, what would your life look like? And now that you've imagined that, how would you act? If you are wanting to be a stay-at-home parent that does this, that, and the third, do you work out? Do you eat healthy? Do you have a big group of friends, a small group of friends? Do you enjoy cooking? What are your hobbies? If your end state is being in a relationship, how does that look for you? How independent are you? What skills do you need to sustain that relationship? What qualities in yourself do you need to sustain that relationship and attract that person of your dreams? If your end result is a certain job opportunity, what qualities and skills do you need to obtain that position? Maybe what locations do you need to be at / events do you need to be at to attract those people, to network with the right people? If it's a career, what does it look like? What does your weekly schedule look like? What do you do? What don't you do? Make all of this in a list and compare to how you are showing up now. Are you eating healthy? Are you working out? Are you going to networking events? Are you even believing you can sustain this end goal? And start by taking, if one day adding one new thing a day is too much, take one thing off that list of what you would need to do for the end state and add that week by week. It takes 21 days to create a habit. So add something off that list every week or every other week and start to integrate it into your schedule. And with integrating that, integrating breath work and EFT tapping are going to be imperative to help you regulate your nervous system throughout this time, because there are going to be things in your reality that are going to kind of challenge this methodology and what you're doing, but it's imperative that you regulate your nervous system so you can take the day with a clear mind. You never should make and even talk, okay, to anybody emotional when you're emotionally charged or angry. Nothing good happens out of that. So regulating your nervous system by doing breath work or EFT tapping is super important, and it'll be super helpful for you in this time. There's so many YouTube channels that have breath work. I like Breathing with Sandy. He's really good. I just did one yesterday and I actually fell asleep, and I truly enjoyed that session with him. I want to start integrating that every day. Even if you feel like your nervous system doesn't need to be regulated, you really should still do breath work every day because it helps regulate your fight or flight complex within your body. If you are constantly on your fight or flight, that's your sympathetic nervous system thinking, "Oh, there's a problem. Hey. I gotta be on alert. I gotta be really, really alert. Okay, I can't be relaxed." But your parasympathetic nervous system is what relaxes you down and what balances that sympathetic nervous system. And that parasympathetic allows you to freaking relax, okay? And actually hear the things you need to hear, connect with source, connect with yourself, and live in the present. A lot of us are living in our fight or flight mode all the time, and that manifests into this really masculine energy if you're a woman, and if you're a man, into this really negative masculine energy that kind of pulls us away from opportunities, people, things, and everything to help us become this new person. Breath work is amazing and it's completely free and it's great. And it helps you gain control over your body as well as get in touch with your body, learn your capabilities, learn your limits. You would surprise yourself. So 20 out of 10 recommend doing breath work. I started EFT tapping before I did breath work. I don't know why I was so anxious to start breath work, but they both are good for two different reasons. Really, the breath work is regulating your nervous system, and EFT tapping is really affirming those intrusive thoughts that we don't realize are really, really affecting us, and it's really affirming like we're worthy. You can look on YouTube, there's so many different ones, or you can just get an affirmation list and look at an EFT tapping video to see the pressure points that you are doing the tapping in. It is so helpful. It is so good. Those two methods are going to help you stay in the present. Obviously, it's going to have you're going to have to do some longevity in terms of therapy, shadow work, and, just actually wanting to be present in reality. So, you know, take this time how you think you need to handle it. There is hope for a new life. There's hope for a better life. There's hope for a new opportunity. Everything doesn't have to be so dark, so grim, so negative, so nasty. There really is another side. If we can manifest all of these things because we are in a negative, low vibrational, and just this angry state, what would life look like on the other side? It has to look like the other side. If we're going through so much pain, so much anger, so much sadness, so much rejection, on the other side has to be good stuff, right? Understand, if you live too much in the future, you're thinking too much about your past. And if you live too much in the past, you're thinking too much about your past or your future, which is not allowing you to stay in the present and be grateful and happy of all the great blessings and talents you've been given. I hope today's episode was informing for some, or just another perspective, or motivating for someone. I know right now the times are really tough with inflation and just everything is really different right now. So, you know, don't be afraid to try new methodologies, new theories. Don't be afraid to look into new things, into people, look into psychology, look into mystics, look into different religions, look into whatever you need to ensure that you can really get as much as you can out of this life. It is not fun to be miserable. It's not fun to be in a hole. It is also not necessary. Really become the phoenix rising from the ashes. That's what I want everyone who listens to this podcast episode to be. I want you to rise from the ashes. I want you to be the underdog. And I want everyone to ask how. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode, and I can't wait to see you in our next one. Bye.